And so they were able to give a bunch of space back. Yeah, so they've reduced their footprint.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom Gonzalez, so I'm representing the Board of Health for Larimer County on our Region 2 Larimer Regional Opioid Abatement Council meeting. This is March 26th. We're starting right at 2 p.m. As always, we start with a call to order. We do a roll call now for those that are voting members. So I'll first start off with City of Loveland. Are you on?
Yes, Zeke Cortez is present.
Thank you, Zeke. Wonderful and welcome.
Thank
Do
you.
we have the town of Wellington on?
Brian Mason, happy to be here.
Hi, Mayor Pro Tem Mason. Thank you. We do have Estes Park, a new face. Mayor Gary Haw, I'll let you introduce yourself and welcome to the Regional Opioid Abatement Council. We'd love to have you.
That was a perfect introduction. Cindy Youngwin, Trustee Youngwin, her last meeting on the council for the board at Estes was Tuesday. So I'll be taking over at least a couple of meetings, but till we have a new board in April. But this tends to be near and dear to my heart. I sit on the Behavioral Health Policy Council also, so I may continue after April.
Wonderful. So terrific. Well, welcome, Mayor. Thank you. Yes, thanks for driving down.
Well, I've been at PRPA all morning. This is bound to be more exciting.
Well, let's hope. City of Fort Collins.
Here.
Okay. I know a commissioner will be here for representing the county. She's probably just running a little late or finding a parking spot. But when she gets in, we'll make sure to introduce her. And then, of course, Tom Gonzalez representing the Larimer County Board of Health. All right, moving along, we do have a quorum. Public comment. Does anybody care to make a comment to the council? Nothing online? No. Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment. We'll move to agenda item 3, which is approval of the February 26, 2026 meeting minutes. Do I have such an action?
All motion to approve the minute.
I did read it.
I've got a movement from the mayor, and then Brian, would you take a second for that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So we've got a motion and a second. Those minutes, well, let's go to vote. Does anybody oppose those motions? Seeing none, those pass unanimously. Okay, I want to take, before we get into grant administration, I do have 3 reminders here that Heather Gilmore reminded me. I appreciate you keeping me straight here. First is Marshall Weaver, who was one of our technical advisory members with lived experience, did submit his resignation last week to us. It was a wonderful letter of resignation, thanking everyone for the opportunity and his ability to provide feedback. He did say he is just celebrating his 5th year of sobriety. Let's give him a round. I mean, he does feel like it's time for him to step away from this because, you know, he's been on it for 4 years, and let someone else come in and represent the lived experience. So we wish Marshall the best, his sobriety and the great things he's doing in our community. He will be missed. Any other comments regarding Mr. Weaver's resignation? Commissioner. Make a note the commissioner is here. Okay, then with that, we have all of our 3 lived experiences members have resigned, and Commissioner Shattuck McNally dusted off the application. We cleaned it up and modernized it for today's language. And you saw an email from Heather that it's got it into a, what kind of format is that? Google Forms. Somebody can apply.
Well, that's how I put it into a Google form. She just helped me get the picture on it. So she just helped me format it better.
And so that's out, and the applications are due by April 30th. So if you have anybody interested, please forward that email on to them. We'd love to get some great applicants for our lived experience because they're so vital to this work. Another item, just so you were all aware, hold on, sorry, is the Colorado Opioid Abatement Council has asked that Janelle work with us, all of our grantees, to ensure that none of the funding that comes from the ROACs is supplanted. Supplanted means that you already got the funding to do the work and you take additional funding to free up the funding you already have. That's technically supplanting. I know that because I get federal funding over at the health department. We can't do that. We can't supplant federal funding. They just want to double check, triple check. We don't believe that's ever happened with our grantees. So what John and Janelle have done is put together a form and an item that folks all sign as part of the contract to reinforce that they are committed to not supplanting these dollars. John, I know you're online. Do you have anything to add that I failed to bring up?
No, you got it. And David's online who put the form together, actually.
Well, thank you, David. Anything to add legally for that, David?
Nope, that's a pretty accurate summary. That's the sole purpose of it, is just to confirm that it's not supplanting any existing funds, but then just an update that the future grant agreements will have this language included with it.
Thank you, everybody who's involved in that. All right, we have our district attorney, Gordon McLaughlin. You did have a comment you wanted to make?
Yes. I was curious if we have any lessons learned from our lived experience people that we can sort of take into finding the next group, because obviously we sort of struggled with maintaining some of those people. I know I forwarded it to our problem solving court staff to see if they had any good candidates, because a lot of those graduates are pretty invested in sort of moving back. But do we have more insight in sort of what characteristics we should be looking for in this next group of people?
If I might, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
please.
You know, last time we were looking at just one, and then I advocated for the three because we had one that had a family member who was impacted because the person had lost two children to opiate overdose. And then we had a long-term sobriety and justice-involved individual who also experienced some homelessness. And then we had a shorter, more recent justice-involved lived experience person who was more recent. And so we had kind of their range, and I thought that was nice to have. At our last meeting, that individual who, you know, I think they all struggled with timing and stuff, and some of them are always online and you never really heard, but I think what he had said when he left that last day, I didn't realize he was going to resign. I thought he was staying, so I was surprised, but he said he thought having folks with maybe more recent lived experience, because the
Knowing those direct needs.
direct needs and conditions are different than they were 20 years ago, even 10 years ago.
Yep.
And the opiate crisis and the fentanyl is maybe, you know, last 10 to 15 and not older, and maybe we need someone who was really impacted by opiates, whether it be a family member or recent. And so that was their feedback after our meeting last week. So I think it would be great to have a family impacted as well as someone who is in recovery. So, I think that would be great. And I think I would advocate we have at least more than one. Two would be fine, but I think, you know, we have the issues with attendance. And then we had to come up with that policy because we were offering stipends and how many meetings you need to come in, getting the full stipend, that kind of thing, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think it's really important feedback for this group to have, and so
That was just, I mean, literally it was a month ago you said that. Yeah.
Yeah, the implementation is unfortunate, so it doesn't appear that the stipend really made any difference in terms of that, which is,
Well, he just made that, and I thought he was staying, so I was surprised because, but we hadn't seen him in a while, but it could be, often, this is a hard time to come during the day. And so if they're working or, that's why, you know, the online was fine, but it'd be nice to have them turn on their camera so we can see that they're there, but, so, I know there's a lot of folks, involved with peer-to-peer things, and I think the other thing I would caution is we want probably be careful of maybe who is still in a private organization that's receiving grant funding that might create, I don't know. But there is a lot of groups, we have so much happening in the community. I think there is, we just can get out to our networks, I think we'd be able to get some good candidates or really good.
Do we have a deadline, an application deadline?
Yeah, April 30th.
April 30th.
Yep. Okay, good conversation, moving us along. We do have a packed agenda, and I and Heather have to make a hard stop right at 3:30 today. So we do have under grant administration a follow-up on February year 4 proposals. As you recall, the council last month approved the grantees based upon the reduction, and that was a motion made. We just wanted to make sure you all know it's in the packet. Every one of those, working with John and Janelle, came back and adjusted their statement of work and adjusted their budget to meet that intent. So anything else to add, John or Janelle? We just wanted the council to be aware those are ready to go. They've met what we asked them to do.
They're all in the packet for your viewing, but they've all met that amount that was proposed to them.
Great. Okay, moving on to grant administration, the big one, highlights, year 4, we do now have 4 existing partners, grantees, and then we'll have 2 new ones. So everybody on your table, desk in front of you has this spreadsheet front and back. One of the items I think we were kind of getting wrapped around was getting into all the exhibits that the COAG wants from us versus just the actual large funding allocation. I can understand how that can be confusing. So what the team did, staff did, is they put it in recovery, planning, prevention, harm reduction, treatment, administrative costs as a whole. So if it's moving from E1 to E3, that doesn't really matter. That's behind the scenes. But if you're moving a large percentage from harm reduction to treatment, that would require us a conversation with the council just to make sure we're still on point with our priorities. So on the back sheet, you will see those that have been approved. Those were in blue. Those were approved last month. The reduction they take because the money was front loaded for the first year, so we're seeing less and less money as the years go. At least that's the plan, right, David? I know that's up to change, but and then you'll see the ones today, the ones that like rescue mission, those that are existing, and then the 2 new ones, which is the Willow Collective and One Chance to Grow. Any questions on the tools that you have? You also have the spreadsheet to keep your notes while the presenters are going. We've again asked the presenters to keep it really, really concise, especially the ones that are existing grantees, because we know their mission, vision, and so forth, so we can get done at 3:30. Yes.
May I have just a moment, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
So I really appreciate all the work and the adjustments and how we're kind of trying to help make this process, especially with all the changes and the changes in the buckets. And I know we have these presentations. And I'm just going to ask for just a moment because I know this is going to make our chair and health director uncomfortable, but I wanted to bring some awareness of an opportunity that maybe have been lost in translation due to, maybe a lot of people don't know, but that also our human services director has been out. It's a very serious medical issue, so there's been some things that maybe have not been translated. But if you remember, last year we had put the equity bucket, about $80,000 aside for things that we wanted to fund or look at, and one of those was maternal health or helping kids had been impacted. And that's when we had like put some money aside, and then we had some folks come later to apply for those buckets. And about a few months ago, we didn't get all the things I think that we were looking for, but we found out as commissioners, and we had funded it for the immediate future, a maternal health program that's through the health department. And so it's great, but I'm also wondering, this is exactly what the ROAC was looking to fund. And so, and I have some details on it, but I was hoping, I know he's probably not ready to do that today, have a staff member or something, but I'd like to see if the ROAC would like to maybe at least leave a little room that we could at least hear about this program and see if we could help support it with any kind of funding, since it's something that we had, especially Trustee Youngland and some of those folks last year had this, and Beth Yons was something that they had really wanted to see us try to do. And we really never thought, we found something similar, but not quite the right fit. And the director and the chair don't know I was even going to bring this up today, because we were gonna have a conversation about it, but with timing and sensitivity, and knowing that we're starting to really get down to allocations, I want to at least make the council aware that there is a program and it's happening, and it would be great, it might be, at least if we could look at maybe during the presentation, at least maybe partially supporting it financially. I think it's just to honor previous work of our former original board members, and also just something that I know we had looked at maybe being more upstream and also attacking some of that maternal health and some of the youth portion. So I don't know, Mr. Chair, if I could ask the council if they would just be maybe open, maybe, next month we could have a short presentation like these from someone with that program, and just at least be aware if that's an opportunity.
Yeah, this is a surprise. It was never the intent of the Board of Health or me to apply for any ROAC funding dollars.
This is all me, just so you know.
There was a background to this. It was using county opioid dollars, and that's what has been approved. So we were never wanting to come in and compete with our partners. So yes, this was a surprise, and unexpected for me.
So can I ask, is the county opioid bucket, is that covering this program?
For this year,
And is there an opportunity to apply for that next cycle?
possibly, but I know this was something the ROAC was looking to fund, and it would, if we could help in the short term, help using the ROAC money, then maybe the county can use it for the long term, when these funds start to become less.
We do have a hand raised in the chat.
Oh, somebody's hands are up. I can't see, unfortunately.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I personally, I think I was the one that had kind of brought this up over about a year ago regarding maternal health and that sort of thing. It didn't seem like we had any of that or any grantees that had really had that kind of on their radar. I certainly think it's something worth hearing about. I mean, if the council would be interested in setting aside, I don't know, $50,000 or something like that, just to just kind of earmarked for that. If it doesn't end up going that way, I think it's totally fine. But I would be curious to get some more information on it personally, just from my standpoint.
And I'll say from my perspective, I'm sorry, should I resume?
Oh, you're fine.
Okay. So from my perspective, so this would completely eat up the money, correct? What's on this back page? Like this is the full allocation?
If you go to the other page, it will show you the balance in red down at the bottom of the anticipated and actual requests. So anticipated is what we earmarked based on prior years, and with the nearly 6% reduction, and then the 2 new additional grantees are listed on there as well.
So we have an additional 54,000 or
that is a minus.
Okay.
You were
Yeah, I mean, so just to be fair to all the applicants that actually submitted an application, I would say, I mean, next time applications open, if the Department of Health wants to submit an application.
And I think it would be great at least for us to hear about it and have a presentation, at least have an idea of what is happening, because I think it's, I just think that if you were in the same, if full conflict in the same issue or Estes Park, I think it would be nice to know that maybe in the short term, we would be able to, this was something that council, I don't know if you weren't here, this is something that we have the former members had really wanted to see. And I appreciate you. I forgot that you were also involved that with Mayor Pro Tem Mason. Thanks for reminding me of that, so.
I'm gonna have to ask that we move on.
Okay.
We gotta end at 3:30.
Can we, Mr. Chair, can we just say maybe we could bring them next week to have you present next month?
I don't know because the team just started, we just hired staff, so we were just getting underway. There was no commitment to that. I'd have to see with the team. Moving on to grant administration, let's get Lighthouse going. Welcome.
Thank you. Going first, I'm kind of nervous about that. Thanks for having me back. I'm Jen. I am the program specialist at Lighthouse. We provide supportive recovery housing for people recovering from opioid use disorders and other substance use and co-occurring mental health disorders. Next slide, please. Just a quick performance update for 25. We've now been open for over 15 years and have served over 1,700 people. In 2025, 79% left sober and moved on to more permanent housing, so that's our success rate. And we currently serve 60 plus residents over 6 homes in Larimer County. Next slide. Over the last year, we've expanded our recovery housing by opening our first women's home, opening an additional graduate house, and increasing the number of people we're able to serve at any given time. I'm really excited to give a little update on the women's house. So last time I was here, we hadn't actually started moving women in yet, but in January, we started moving women in. We have 9 women in the house currently, and we are full operating on the wait list. Next slide is just a photo of some of the women in the women's house, just to kind of put a face to the program. Next slide, please. Our residents face multiple barriers to recovery. So in 2025, 91% were homeless at their time of intake at Lighthouse. 51% were justice involved, and at least 30% listed opiates as their drug of choice. Next slide, please. Some key program deliverables include admissions coordination and intake assessments over 6 houses, MAT education and referrals to local providers, and in-house meetings and recovery support in-house, as well as scholarships that reduce barriers to housing. Some of the performance measures include the number of people providing recovery housing, the increase in the number served based on our increased housing capacity, and the number of residents leaving sober and transitioning to stable housing. Next slide, please. Some of our program changes and challenges over the last year and couple months. Now that we're operating 6 houses and have 60 plus residents, it's really increased our need for staff and support inside of all of these houses. So that's kind of adjusted our funding priorities to staffing as well as scholarships. So those are our 2 primary asks this time around. Next slide, please. So for 26-27 ROIC funding, we are requesting staffing to include full-time admissions and intake specialists. There's been a whole lot more phone calls, a whole lot more intakes and admissions now that we have so many houses. So we need a full-time person just to do that one role, as well as a portion of my salary for recovery programming and case management. And then the live-in recovery support as a live-in house manager for the women's recovery. And that would be a full-time position as well. And then last thing is scholarships that remove financial barriers to recovery housing. So it'll be a first month and then some ongoing to help people stay housed when they cannot afford to pay program fees. Next slide is just a photo of the new women's house. I tried to make this as fast as possible, and you guys kind of know us already, so.
Sorry.
That's it. Do you guys have any questions?
Questions? Any questions online that I'm not seeing?
We did put out a request. I know there's probably not going to be, but if there is any additional funding to do a one-time supplemental capital request, because we're releasing, we're trying to purchase. So if there's anything left over, once all the presentations are done, we would love the opportunity to do that.
Okay. How would the council like to proceed like last month where we went through all the presentations first and then had the conversation vote, or would we like to do it after each one?
Probably more efficient to do it at the end.
Okay. That agree? Everybody agree?
Especially if they're all as concise.
Yes.
And Mr. Chair, I think it's only fair to be consistent since that's how we did it last week.
Yep, good. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, and then thank you guys for asking last week about working with that other program. We could do that as well for the reporting.
Thank you thank you for remembering that.
Yes, of course.
God, you did.
I have a question.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Moving along. Oh, we do have a question?
Yes. I wasn't sure if I needed to raise my hand or not. I was just curious. This is Zeke from Loveland. I'm curious if you have a house in Loveland or where this house is.
So we have right now 6 houses in Fort Collins, but we are about to take over the ARC. So we're living in Loveland, which I didn't present yet because it hasn't happened yet, but we're almost done doing that. So we are about to have a 7th house and 1 in Loveland.
Excellent. If it's okay, I'd like to just get your information and during maybe council comment at some point, just let people know about it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you in general. So
Sounds great. Yeah, I guess you just let me know how to give over the information. I can absolutely do that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Partners.
So thanks for having us back. Hi, everybody. I echo Shana's gratitude. We appreciate a few minutes of your time this afternoon. And also just thank you for the incredible work that you do on this council to address this conversation in our community. My name is Heather Besgard. I'm the Executive Director at Partners. And just a little reminder of what we do. We enter this conversation from very much a primary prevention and early intervention conversation. So our mission is to empower youth and the community that support them to achieve their full potential through mentoring and prevention education, as well as strategic partnership with the other adults in the community. Move on. Just a little recap of our funding request as we support personnel who are focused on prevention, support marketing costs to get the word out about our needs in the area of prevention and messages that folks should be hearing, professional development and ongoing education with our staff, and then the indirect costs. I'm going to let Shana Kafalis, our program director, because she's the one that really does all the hard work, talk about our successes and challenges as an organization almost. So you can see that. Awesome. And just a clarification that we have this in this higher additional prevention education program coordinator. That was actually something that we did last year and is not reflected in this funding and not reflected in the application, just an error on our slide. So just as a note, in case you see that discrepancy in the application. You can go ahead and move on to the next slide. All right, so I do believe I went through quite a few of these when I was able to present to you all a couple of months ago, but wanted to give you a refresher on some of the successes we've seen in this past year. So this past year, we were able to serve 694 youth in the Larimer County area. As you know, we also serve some youth in Wells County, so our pool number is a little higher than that, but for you all, it's 694. The majority of our participants have had some type of barriers in their lives or are from marginalized or underrepresented communities. We serve actually over 20 Larimer County schools, so we are in all 3 major school districts, and we've actually served some charter schools as well, such as Academy of Arts and Knowledge, but primarily are in the public school system, offering prevention education classes and school-based mentoring. We do prevention education in a couple ways. Sometimes we do one-time presentations for parents or youth or community members, and more often we do a series of about 6 to 12 weeks in which youth are learning different skills throughout those. So that's something that has been a success this year. Performance measures you can see down here. We've seen some great successes, especially in perception of risk of alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use, and folks' attitudes against those things, which is what we'd like to see for particularly this grant. You can go ahead and move along. Some challenges that we have faced over this past year and that we continue to face at times are mostly volunteer recruitment and funding, which I think you'll hear a lot from organizations. So this past year, we were a little bit under goal from what we did say that we hoped to do for this past year with you all. Still achieving 694 Larimer County youth served. I do believe that number was closer to 750, though, that we had hoped for. Mostly that is due to not being able to get as many volunteers. So that's something we're continuing to address. We were able to hire a community engagement coordinator throughout this past year as well to help us with our recruitment efforts. Funding in 2026 is a little different than what we've seen in the previous few years. A lot of multi-year contracts are up this year, so that's another challenge that we're facing right now, in an area in which we really appreciate your support. You can go ahead and move along to the next slide. All right, so finally, looking ahead, what we hope to do in this next year of funding. We aim to serve 700 Larimer County youth through all three of those programs that we've already mentioned. Continuing with those 20-ish schools, perhaps a few more as well, depending on interest from the school districts and the capacity of our staff. Provide a minimum of 18 pro-social activities for youth and mentors. And this past year, I think we actually offered around 40. So hoping to continue to grow that as needed, but really making sure that there's a minimum of 18. And then to teach at least 8 prevention education classes each year. Throughout this next year, we want at least 8 of those different series of those 6 to 12 weeks. And then we have the same performance measures as we did for last year as far as our goals, with aiming for that 60% increase or maintenance in a variety of different areas. So are there any questions that we can answer for you all today?
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Mr. Chair. Really love all the numbers and appreciate all the work. And I'm really a big believer in pro-social activities right now. When you talk about 20, my question is 20 Larimer County schools, can you share, there's 3 school districts. What's the percentage, or not exact, but how many are in Poudre versus Thompson versus Estes? And is there at least some equity there or some throughout the whole county? Because, that kind of is important that some of those other school districts, I want to make sure it's kind of across the whole county.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're in all 3 schools in Estes Park. We are in 6 schools in Loveland and 8 schools in Fort Collins.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good question. Others?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, yes, please, Zeke.
Zeke Cortez from Loveland. I am wondering, so at your program goals, the Teach 8 prevention education classes annually, can you just delve into a little bit about what is taught in the prevention education classes?
Absolutely. So we use a program called Brainwise. And like I said, it's about 6 to 12 weeks. It's really adaptable, so we can work with the schools on what that looks like. And it teaches skills that really focus on decision making and youth brain development to help youth make better decisions and prevent the use of substances in the future, in addition to other risk factors that they might encounter. There is a premise of the 10 wise ways, they call it. It's a cutesy little saying they have. And so it's 10 different lessons that they have, teaching them different things about their brains and building a constellation of support in their community, how to make good decisions, thinking through actions and consequences, different things like that.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. And also, Shattuck McNally, Vice Chair Shattuck McNally, I really appreciate you advocating for the distribution between schools and all the towns. So thank you.
You're welcome, Councilmember Cortez. I appreciate your comments.
I had a question. So the youth serve, how do they become part of the program?
For our mentoring programs, youth are referred by typically counseling professionals, most often currently in schools, but also other human service agencies. So folks who are working with these kiddos and identify risk and potential to benefit from a mentoring partnership. So there's a referral process. We don't accept mandated youth, but oftentimes there's ways to help youth understand why they would want to be in the program if they're a little resistant. But they're all voluntary, coming from a counseling professional. On the prevention education side, it's really driven by schools who wish to partner with us. So we have some schools who will say, we'd like you to teach a 6 to 8 week series to this specific group of students for whatever reason they've come up with. And then we have some schools, in middle school, for example, in Fort Collins, that said, we want you to teach this curriculum to every single fifth grader that we have. It's a year-round partnership with them.
And when we're saying youth, I'm assuming any kiddo under the age of 18?
Yes, between the ages of 7 and if it's for mentoring, when they turn 18, liability insurance stops covering them, and the mentoring is a minimum of a year commitment. So it's really 7 to 17 for that program.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your consideration.
All right, Fort Collins Rescue Mission.
Hello again. I think I know just about everybody, but for those that don't, my name is Kyle McPherson. I'm the Senior Director of Programs for Fort Collins Rescue Mission at Harvest Farm. Go to the next slide, please. I'm going to try and be helpful and be really concise because I'm here as often as most of you are speaking on various things, so I'll try and keep it quick. Quick recap of 2025 for us. I think that's always important. 63 individuals graduated from the Harvest Farm program, which in order to graduate, you have to obtain more stable housing, have income sufficient to support yourself, no longer engaging in destructive habits, and they've gone through and cycled throughout all of our services that we offer. 108 individuals secured more stable housing, 77 obtained employment, 131 connected with mental health care. You guys have seen a lot of these before. One I wanted to highlight because it's been an ask year after year that we've got good systems in to collect data now, is that of all of those we serve, 74 identified with having an opioid addiction in the past or currently that led to their entry into our program. So that's something that we're actively capturing at Harvest Farm, and we'll be working to capture and be able to identify at Fort Collins Rescue Mission as well in the coming years, particularly as we open up our new shelter. Next slide, please. We typically try to stick to outcomes. I think that's really important, although I know outputs and some of the things that go on in our program are also always interesting and worth highlighting. So this past year, we took all of our participants out on a whitewater rafting trip, which is always fun. Many of our men have never been outside of a major city, so it's a very good pro-social activity. Hikes, outings as often as we can, lots of big banquets. Also something that's not typically known for men who complete our career readiness courses. So how do I navigate the employment market, build a resume, interview for jobs? We gift them a laptop that's funded through some donors. So we gave away 57 laptops to men to try and help them on that next steps to employment. For those who graduate our program and have a valid driver's license, we also gift vehicles, free and clear. All that we require is that they be able to legally drive. That's important for everybody in this room. That they have insurance and that they have $2,000 in savings. So that way we know that they can take care of that vehicle. And in 2025 alone, we gave away 41 cars. For those who are not eligible for a vehicle, we give them $800 in Walmart gift cards to help them with those first months in new housing, right? Things that a lot of us don't think of. We've been stably housed, like linens and pots and pans and groceries, maybe some furniture, hopefully not a brand new PlayStation, but that's the thing about gifts. They're gifts for a reason. And we hope that our guys will respond with them. But we gave away $2,800 gift cards to our graduates as well. Next slide, please. Fort Collins Rescue Mission. This has certainly been a unique process for all of us. 2025 was the hardest year I think we've experienced to date in shelter in Larimer County and certainly in Fort Collins with the fire, but we still provided 25,000 nights of shelter, served 873 unique individuals. I think this one should be of particular interest to the council, which is 403 new guests to Fort Collins Rescue Mission. So that's men who had never stayed with us in the past. And given what's going on, the climate around shelter and the unhoused population, we anticipate that that number of new guests to shelter will continue to rise. Although we certainly hope that we're wrong. Then, of course, continue to provide case management, small group attendance, meal support, and other supports to help individuals exit shelter and into more stable housing. Next slide, please. The big one, which I won't belabor because most of you are aware of this in part because of your efforts to help support us in our response to the fire. For those who don't, we had a very tragic fire, August of 2025, which forced us to shut down our shelter, which also forced us to cut our capacity down by more than half. We did something we then moved to our seasonal overflow site at 117 North Mason, where we have 70 total beds, which is never enough during the winter or any time. So we did something we've never done before, which seems to be a pattern in the midst of crisis for any organization, which is we opened up an overflow site at Harvest Farm in Wellington. We added 40 beds the week of Christmas, and since December 22nd, we've been driving men to Wellington to sleep there every night, and then driving them back down to Fort Collins every morning. And our last night of doing that is going to be on the 5th of April. Weather's been nice. Weather's been miraculously nice. I know not many people are happy about it. I will say for us, it's been a huge blessing as for the unhoused, but that'll be our last night of doing that. And then our hope is to get back into Jefferson in May, assuming all goes well with mitigation and adjustments and construction. Next slide, please. This timeline is more here for you all to review in your packets. It's what I discussed with just a bit more granular detail. Again, with our anticipated reentry to Jefferson in May, and then our goal of opening our new homelessness resolution center November of this year, which due to the good weather, warm weather, is still very much on track. So we're really excited about that. Next slide, please. So goals, upcoming goals, we want to continue to capitalize on the work that we've been doing, which is taking those most vulnerable in our community and bringing them into a recovery program to help serve them. So we want to bring at least 40 men from shelter into the Harvest Farm program. With the opening of the new homelessness resolution center, quite frankly, I think we will well exceed that very quickly due to the ability to support more individuals. But we still want to do that. We want to ensure that our guests are able to engage in recovery and support groups. With the opening of our new homelessness resolution center, we are officially going to be adding a sober dorm. So for those who want recovery, but perhaps don't need to go to a residential setting, someplace that they can stay in our shelter that is safe and secure for them while they work on next steps to exit homelessness. Regardless, though, we will continue to offer groups, continue to provide support and support recovery, whether that be at our new shelter or at Harvest Farm up in Wellington. Next slide, please. So funding requests, I put this as a breakdown. We were asked to adjust our ask, which is certainly understandable given the current state of things. So we're requesting $232,000. It's our intention to fund the gap of $58,000 philanthropically through donations, other grants, other opportunities that may be available. I think as with most agencies right now and organizations, we're feeling a bit of a pinch, particularly as we look to expand and go from 89 beds to 250 beds, more than triple the square footage of our services. So we, as I'm sure many others, if there is ever an opportunity to fully fund these, we would graciously and gratefully accept that. And if the response is no, we can't do that, we will give the only appropriate answer, which is thank you so much for your continued support. Thank you so much for $232,000, which allows us to provide 24/7 shelter, which allows us to bring men from Fort Collins into a recovery program to seek ongoing support. And yet, I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention our current state. Next slide. It's the last one. Yes, and that's it. Any questions? Yes, please.
We spent a lot of time together.
We have, yeah, we sure have.
I appreciate all that you're working, but I want to go back to something you just said.
Yeah.
Kind of be consistent with the questions. You said, bring men from Fort Collins to the farm.
Yeah.
I know that's where the rest commission is, but those folks are, how do you bring folks, are they coming from other areas of the county, or is it just those folks? And I'm trying to understand some of that.
So
Some of that, where are they coming from?
you want to know the geographical, where people are starting geographically before they come to Harvest Farm?
But they're here for a while, or I mean, I'm trying to understand how that works a little bit.
Sure.
And the reason I'm asking, well, you probably know why I'm asking, because this is, Larimer, Region 2's, is curious.
Yeah. So our most recent reports that we've ran, 80% do come from Larimer County to receive support from us. That's going into Harvest Farm. We do have the ability to pull Fort Collins Rescue Mission data. The most honest answer I can give is I don't have that on me now, but we could certainly pull that for you if it was ever of interest.
When you sit down and look at it someday, I'd like to learn more. And
Yeah,
understand.
I'd love
I'm
to provide
curious.
that.
I'm very curious.
As are we. I'm sure there's lots of reasons why that's being asked, but given the state of affairs with shelters in northern Colorado, but other places throughout the state, we are getting asked that more regularly, is if we're seeing a large influx from other areas of unhoused men seeking support, seeking shelter. As of yet, we haven't seen that. I think largely due to the more mild winter that we've experienced, and things are pretty recent of other places being shut down. But I think it's very fair to assume that we will. And in answer to the question that does always get asked is, does geography have an impact on those we accept or that process? And the best answer would be no. Someone calls in, they want help and they're looking for services and resources. We will accept them as long as they're qualified, willing, and interested in changing their lives and getting support. However, due to geography, it's the same like how most of us approach our healthcare. If we want a doctor, we generally want someone that's close by that we can go to. For the unhoused population, it's very similar. The vast majority want to stay where they live and stay close by. So we do see the vast majority from Larimer County.
And I can just add too, so the city of Fort Collins, we opened our overnight seasonal overflow shelter. We opened it earlier this year, or last year, I guess, because of the fire that happened. So we're also trying to help partner.
Yes, yeah, very much so. And that is, yeah, that's still ongoing right now. So that's what we've relied upon since the fire in order to provide shelter for individuals.
You had a number up there that was the number of new people that had used your services this past year, and I forget what it was, but it was a large number, and then you just said there hasn't been sort of an influx. So even though that number is significant, it's not showing some sort of increased trend from prior years. It's just always been significant.
Yeah, we haven't seen an influx. I guess to be more pointed, we haven't seen an influx where individuals are listing Loveland as their last known residence, right? With Loveland and what's going on with their shelters being the primary concern that people are voicing. Yeah, so that's new to us, but not necessarily new to Larimer County.
And then how many folks were you usually bringing up to Wellington this winter?
Up to Wellington, gosh,
approximately.
Yeah, initially we maxed out at 30, but we then got another request at 40.
So you were filling that up?
We were filling that up, yeah. The staff calculated the miles, about 26,000 miles driven, getting them back and forth. We only use 12 passenger vans, and our guests have a lot of belongings, right? It's a lot if you carry your life on your back. And so we were doing about 4 or 5 trips every night and then 4 or 5 every morning. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions for Kyle? Anything online? Thank you, Kyle. Great presentation.
Yes, so much.
Next is Rise Above.
Good afternoon, all. I'm glad to be back. It's Kent McLennan. I'm Executive Director for Rise Above Colorado. Thanks again for the ongoing support of our work and consideration of this proposal for the next grant year. Ooh, nice. I like it. It's still there.
Since day one. Yep.
Like it. So we're talking more about the Connect Effect again as one of the central pieces of this next 12 months proposal. Wanted to share a couple of updates with you. These is some of the ads that have been running and are currently running right now as part of our existing grant that closes at the end of April. So that these are in the field currently using data from the 2024 survey when we oversampled Larimer County, thanks to funding from the council here. So that's where we are currently. We'll have more to be able to report in a few months when the grant wraps up and be able to share results there. But that is currently up and running and running efficiently through social media. Primarily Snapchat has been our primary vehicle with youth. We can go to next slide. So our proposal, again, sort of building on the existing plans and approved usages for reducing misuse of opioids. We can go to the next one. None of that has changed, and thanks to Janelle for fixing that. We had 2 in there when we went back to our original. So project objectives, I'll just cover this really briefly. The 2 things we've talked about are continuing to deploy the Connect Effect campaign. As you know, this is something that is done at the needing to be done at the ROAC level because there is no statewide funding for this campaign ongoing. So you all are investing in more resources and more awareness for Larimer County youth. That will continue in this proposal. We are going to use our data that's being collected right now. It's just about to go in the field, our 2026 Rise Above Colorado Youth Survey. So that is a statewide representative sample of youth 12 to 17, but we are then oversampling and ensuring that we have an oversample for Larimer County, where we'll be able to use that data the way we did on that very first slide in terms of pulling out specific social norming, positive social norming data points about Larimer County youth that we can share back through the messaging on those particular questions. So that's our plan. The survey collection will be going for the next few months. We'll have that ready to roll by the fall so that we'll have a fall implementation. It's very similar to this year. We ran a very short window right before the holidays, took a break over the holidays to sort of for cost efficiency, and then got back into the market in the new year and running kind of January through April. So that's going to be our plan. Again, for next year, using those the new content, so there will be some ad change to it, so we'll freshen things up a little bit with that. And then the second piece is ongoing engagement with Larimer County school districts around implementation of prevention programming. We talked specifically about the opioid prevention program not prescribed. I will say, as part of this past year, we have just done a complete overhaul. After 10 years of sort of the same curriculum, we've just overhauled and relaunched that. We actually worked with a Larimer County teacher from Fort Collins High School in the actual redesign of that content. And then we're going to be working with him and others in the district, and particularly in Poudre School District, to retrain folks. We are going to continue to reach out to both Thompson and Estes Park. We have plans for training and implementation this spring. And so we'll continue to fulfill those and do some of the retraining with the new resource. But to your earlier question, Commissioner, about sort of equity and making sure we're offering these resources to all three districts. We've just had so much more interest and pickup, and the work that Poudre has done in terms of really embedding it through their health curriculum, so that we reached about 2,400 last year. That's been part of the setup for that, but we'll continue to make those options available to each of the school districts. And I think we can go to the next one. Just a quick overview regarding the budget overall, working towards the budget that you requested of $34,842 to maintain this. This is maintaining the campaign at the same level as it was this past year. And then we've just got a little bit in continued evaluation as we wrap up this survey after this current grant year closes. So otherwise, things are staying relatively constant in this proposal. Any questions I can answer?
Well, I've been a big fan. I still remember that presentation when you showed all that data, what a tremendous impact it made. So I still keep that in my back of my mind. But my question is, you mentioned Snapchat, and I'm wondering what other mediums or avenues you use, because I'm older. There's the ones I use, but then I thought Snapchat was on its way out, and now I'm hearing that it's still there. And so I'm just trying to understand, is it just Snapchat, or is it YouTube? What is other,
Yeah.
where are we reaching? Where are the kids at? Where are we reaching out to them? I'm just curious, but also want to know if it's more than just Snapchat, or is there posters at schools or at coffee shops, just things like that.
Yes, good questions. So yeah, Snapchat has been the primary, most efficient way to get the message out with the best response in terms of both cost efficiency and eyeballs and engagement of people clicking through for it. We've seen TikTok. We have done TikTok, and there's been TikTok in that budget. That seems to be ebbing a little bit in terms of the engagement we're getting out of that. So our media buyers are optimizing to move dollars into the ads and the platforms that are working most efficiently. We are exploring and want to explore more on the YouTube space. It is fairly expensive, and so that's been one of the cost prohibitive pieces to that. But we'll say we also are using more of Instagram again. Instagram, we've got some better opportunities to target in ethical ways to youth with Instagram that had disappeared for a while, trying to figure these companies out and how and their policies is an interesting game, but that has become another relevant way of, so that we are finding additional people, because if not everybody's on Snapchat, we're probably catching them via Instagram.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then she had also asked about print media, like are we doing posters?
Yes, we have done some things with posters and in the past, and I know we had coordinated a little bit with the sheriff's office on some distribution of those.
Because he got them into every school in Larimer County.
Yeah, so we kind of deferred some of that, knowing that those were getting delivered that way. But if we were able to update content here based on some new data points, we would want to produce some additional posters so that we could explore partnering in that way again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Wow. We have a new applicant, so we will ask the Willow Collective to come on up. Welcome.
Hello, good to see you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present our program and our hopes for how we can contribute to the efforts of your committee and all the things you're doing. So my name is Mary Beth Swanson. I'm one of the founders of the Willow Collective. Should I just let somebody know when I want it to go forward?
Yes, right here.
Oh, okay. You can go ahead and move forward. The Willow Collective started out as a very small private practice, just myself and someone else. And we quickly learned that there was a huge need for infant, early childhood, and maternal mental health. And then on top of that, a huge need for providers that would accept Medicaid. And so with that, we decided to really start to expand our group practice. Within the last year and a half, we became a nonprofit because so many of the things that we're needing to offer are outside of the medical model of billing. We're all clinicians, and so money comes in when we do therapy. So in thinking about the opioid use disorder issue in Larimer County, it's estimated that 40 to 50 infants a year are born with neonatal abstinence syndrome. In Larimer County, it's estimated that the estimates are very questionable, partially because of, I think probably less with the neonatal abstinence, but in terms of whether a pregnancy has been impacted by substance misuse, that can be very skewed by stigma and fear of talking about that. As any one of us who can imagine, you don't stop struggling with addiction the day you get pregnant. If you're lucky, you have the resources to, at the very least, work towards some harm reduction. But estimated that somewhere between 600 and 1,000 pregnancies are impacted by substances. Drug overdose is the second leading cause of death for pregnant postpartum women. And I think we can move to the next one. The reason that we really started with just the two of us, and then we were 4, and then we were 6, and then we were 8, and now we're at about 10 clinicians, was, as I named before, there really isn't anyone else in our community that has really decided to make this their specialty and drill down into some of the special considerations of doing this kind of work. When I say dyadic mental health treatment, that means there are basically a caregiver and a child in the room with the therapist. We often talk about we're not serving this person or that person, we're serving the relationship between them that has quite possibly been damaged by trauma or some kind of attachment disruption. And we find time and again the usual barriers to coming to care. There's an added fear of, I probably look an awful a lot like somebody that could work at child protection. How do they know, especially if the referral came from child protection, that I'm working for them as my client and not an extension? So there are plenty of barriers that we have to overcome. But we can go ahead on to the next slide, please. I want to just name really quickly, our mission is to take intergenerational trauma and transform it into intergenerational healing. What we know is that in our first few years of life, our brains are developing extremely quickly. Our templates for how we perceive other people in the world are very strongly impacted in those early years. Is the world safe? Is the world unsafe? Our capacity to regulate our own emotions is learned, and it's generally learned in relationship with our caregivers. So a caregiver that has learned to regulate their emotions has a much easier time helping their child learn that. Go ahead and go, please. One of the things we have made it a really deep value is meeting our clients where they are. So everyone that works at Willow Collective is able to bill Medicaid. We work with lots of families that are coming through child protection. We work with lots of families that are involved in the criminal justice system. Lots of unmet needs around housing and food and transportation. We realize that almost everybody comes to us thinking they want individual therapy, and that unfortunately people fill up, and as much as we wish we could be like, we got 10 sessions, we're getting her done. When we're working with generations of trauma, it generally takes a significantly longer amount of time to build trust and to do something more than maybe a behavioral intervention. So with that, we've developed these group offerings. I'm not going to go through all of them, but some that I think could be really important for you just to have on your awareness. Caring Dads is a 17-week intervention that's for dads who have they have taken accountability for an act of domestic violence or child maltreatment, and they are sometimes being told they have to do this, but sometimes also coming forward and saying, we want to learn about different ways to be a father. Oftentimes they've learned one way, which is through fear, through threat of physical punishment, and the idea of doing something completely different is not a fast thing to convince somebody of. We also do a little mini Caring Dads within the jail that we do once a month to just give people a taste of it, to see if they want to pursue it when they come out. We have a group for single moms. We have trauma and attachment group. That group we also do in the jail, in the male pod once a month, and the female pod once a month. Nurturing Connections is for moms and babies where postpartum mental health issues are happening. The individual and dyadic therapies, care coordination, we are often using our QBHAs, so 2 lines down. When we started that program, they were called our peers, and they all are parents. They all have lived experience of postpartum depression, NICU, birth trauma, substance misuse, being involved in criminal justice, being involved with DHS. Some changes happened in HICPA for us as a smaller practice, and we had to evolve them into qualified behavioral health assistants. But they are still doing the same work, and we're navigating how much they use their lived experience in their intervention. Also, as I said before, we work really hard to remove the barriers. Childcare is a huge barrier for a mom, and then perhaps one child who's really maybe carrying the trauma if we're trying to do therapy with those 2, and mom has 3 other kids. We are offering childcare during therapy. Our groups all offer childcare. There's no reimbursement for that through Medicaid or anything else. Transportation assistance, we provide home-based visits. Our QBHAs do community-based. And then, of course, we do home visits and telehealth. we find lots of brand new mamas really appreciate not having to pack up their babies. So just some of our partners that we've worked hard to build. I wanted to name Safe Babies Court Teams, relatively new. We're in our first year of that, and it's something that we've advocated quite a lot to bring here. But it's for kiddos who are involved in the child welfare system, ages 3 and under. They estimate 80% of the caregiver moms that are in that, that choose to be part of that, are substance impacted. So that has been a really hopeful way to perhaps move some work towards this issue forward. Yeah. I'm babbling a bit, but I also don't want to assume you know too much about what we do. I really do want to drill down and name why 2-generational therapy really, really matters. First of all, it affects both. I think the thing that I feel like I have seen over and over and over again is that there's also an opportunity for a mom who is taking on something that they care deeply about. And I think it's estimated that up to 90% of women with young children who are in treatment will name that their motivation is about their child. And so kind of not taking advantage of that, but using the fact that there's that openness at that point. At the same time, infants, as I named earlier, brain development is so crucially impacted in that period and growing. And when we do have a caregiver who is really, really struggling with their own mental health or substance misuse, it's very hard to be that reflection for an infant. Go ahead. This is basically what I just said again, but wanted to break it out into how it impacts all three, not just mothers, not just children, the whole family. Reduced child welfare involvement is very much something we're hoping for. And yeah, we can go ahead on to the next one. So the practice that we mainly utilize is called child-parent psychotherapy. It is one of the very few evidence-based practices for children under the age of 5 who have been impacted by trauma. The way that it works, and I won't give you the whole big long spiel, but to become rostered as a CPP provider, you have to go through 18 months of very intensive training. During that time, you're doing cases to fidelity and you're presenting them, and it's a very long learning process. The way it basically works is that it starts with building a relationship with the caregiver. In most cases, it's a mom, it could be a grandma, it could be a foster parent. The person that is that, they call it a protective shield in CPP, the person that child depends on to keep them safe, hopefully. Starts with the caregiver and goes through their own trauma. It goes through their child's trauma. And then it moves into wondering together, how are these perhaps working together? And so mom is getting healed at the same time she's thinking about, gosh, these things happen to me. I do not want them to happen to my child. How do I do something differently? At a certain point, we create what's called a trauma triangle with the caregiver. That's more or less a very basic, this is what happened to your child. And it might be he saw you being taken out of the house by the police. He saw you being beaten up by somebody. He saw dad being taken out. The things that happen in these homes. These are now the behaviors that you're demonstrating. So kids' behaviors are not completely mysterious, though they often feel like it. And then it uses dyadic play therapy. So we bring in very specific toys. So we might have a police station, we might have a house, we might have a hospital.
I'm sorry to interrupt, we got 2.
All right, the kids just tell us what they need. So go ahead on to the next one. Our QBHAs, again, I don't know how much I need to say about that, but I do believe that having somebody that has walked a similar path as you is a really important way to break down some of that stigma and distrust. So this is our request to expand our capacity to provide CBP, expand our TBHA services, including in the jail, and then reduce some of the barriers around childcare, transportation, care coordination that aren't always funded by Medicaid. So I can go on. I don't know if I should take all this time to go through, these are each of our goals, but planning on getting, doing more treatment with using CP, increasing the number of rostered providers, and just measuring that through engagement. Our TBHAs, again, we are hoping that they will be joining the workshop we do in the women's pod. And if possible, identifying women who are struggling with SUD, OUD, and likely going to be returning to Larimer County, offering them case management and reentry support. We've reached out to to Mariah, who oversees some of the MAP program at the jail, and she was very, very interested in a program for women. So we will do that. And then our hope is to also have a on the outside a group we can offer to women. This is again about the childcare and the need for us to be able to do some of these extra things to reduce barriers. Right, and this is a quote from when somebody said, we probably don't want somebody from a grantee agency. I had been thinking about this particular client, but I can probably let you read this for herself, but she's worked with us for a couple of years and she's doing it. And it's really lovely to see. This is someone who spent plenty of time in jail. You might know her, Gordon. She's gone through drug court, and she's now sober and taking care of her kids. So I think that's it.
And real quickly, do you have your budget proposals for?
It's 59, yeah.
59, and real briefly explain, within less than a minute, what you're new, what that money will be used for.
Okay, so the first 24 is going to be for the QBHA work, where they'll be going into the jail, where they'll be hopefully doing case management within the jail. And then the second one, the 7,900, is for childcare and transportation. And then the last one is for the CPP work. So they estimate that providing CPP costs about 40% more than your average therapy session. So you could not have 20 CPP cases as a therapist, and that's maybe a number that we might usually do. And so we need to find ways to pay our clinicians for all of the training they have to do, all the reflection and consultation they have to do. It's a pretty intensive intervention.
Thank you.
Okay.
Perfect. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Maribel. Nice to see you. Thanks for your work and being here today. So I have questions. You know, of course, this is for the opioid abatement settlement money. And I see that you are prepared, on the budget amount, you talked about providing support parenting for women with opioid use disorder or any co-occurring conditions. So I'm curious, how, in the past, how many women have you seen? Like, is it dozens, 20? I'm wondering how many women specifically are challenged with opioid use? Because, you know, we want to make sure we're trying to target that, especially with this kind of special year. I'm curious about the scale and scope of that.
Yeah. I would probably fall back on like the DHS data because they would refer, I would say, almost all of their under 5 kids to the Willow Collective, and about 80% of those moms have some sort of substance use disorder. We would need to be more diligent in pulling out opioid use versus whether they're polysubstance involved. So we would need to begin to really be more diligent about collecting that data. I would guess that we serve at any given time the dyads that are impacted by substance use disorder.
So that would be interesting if you were using that data, because we want to make sure that, we're targeting those women with opioid use disorder, and so, or parents, and I know that's in your objectives and in the budget, so that would be great to, if this is funded, to have that data to kind of show, because, also we have to, we get audited and it has to go to the state and feds, we're making sure that's kind of, showing that that's where the money went, so I'd be very curious about that.
Okay, that's fair.
Other questions? Nothing on mine? Thank you, Mary Beth. Appreciate that. Okay, moving right along, we've got 16 more minutes left. And we got one chance to grow up. Welcome and thank you for coming.
We're running. Hi, nice to be here today. I'm Allison Dodge with One Chance to Grow Up, and this is my friend Jennifer Yates. She is our grants coordinator, and she also lives here in Monroe County. We are with One Chance, and we are a nonprofit founded by concerned parents when Colorado legalized recreational marijuana. We don't take sides on the politics of legalization, but instead serve as a reliable resource for parents, media, policymakers, and those who care about kids. Today, we will share compelling data that links youth marijuana use with later opioid misuse and the need and importance of upstream youth prevention. ROAC Region 2 Larimer County's prevention goal is to prevent substance use across a lifespan by reducing risk factors and strengthening protective factors. One Chance to Grow Up's mission for Region 2 is upstream prevention of marijuana and high concentrated THC use, a risk factor for opioid use disorder. One Chance to Grow Up mission for Region 2 is upstream prevention of marijuana and high potency THC, a risk factor for opioid use disorder. Did I maybe just, no, I didn't say that twice. Our strategy is to provide strong protective factors for youth via parent and trusted adult education and public awareness. Several studies are showing a link between early THC use and later opioid misuse, starting with marijuana use before the age of 18, the strongest risk factor for later opioid use disorder. We can go to the next one. While gateway drug can be a charged phrase, whatever you call it, scientific evidence clearly supports the idea that marijuana use, specifically early use at age 14, is strongly associated with opioid use at 19. We can go ahead. Some claim that marijuana use can protect against opioid misuse, but yet this is untrue. In fact, cannabis use increases the risk of developing non-medical prescription opioid use and opioid use disorder. With all of this in mind, 55% of new THC users are underage. Every year, new parents of young kids have to navigate this space. How would a parent know? These look like benign emojis, but think again. Each of these represents transactions, celebrations, sales, and promotions of THC. And there is no limit to the number of colorful THC ads and marketing towards our kids on social media platforms. Playdate approved, smell-proof backpack, puff puff pass, AKA a hall pass. But of particular concern are these concentrated products that have THC levels that can reach 95% and higher. This is today's marijuana. These photos illustrate some of the forms in which high concentrate vapes are sold. They are small, discreet, close to odorless, addictive, and incredibly dangerous to the adolescent brain. Most people may think of the visual of marijuana as a pot leaf. So in 2018, we launched thcphotos.org to provide a free visual resource of what marijuana looks like today. Parents and their kids are hearing false messages. There is no level of THC that is safe for an adolescent or a developing brain. These are all false messages kids get not just from friends, but from adults, therapists, music, social media, and the marijuana industry. This study shows that high-potency marijuana also raises the risk of serious mental health impacts, with frequent high-potency users facing 3 to 5 times greater risk of developing psychosis. And please note that 93% of the products sold in the Colorado legalized market are deemed high potency at over 15% THC concentration. Marijuana products are significantly affecting the future of Colorado kids. Here are the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment health statements. Marijuana is linked to schizophrenia in adulthood, symptoms like hallucinations, paranoia, and delusions, impaired learning and memory, increased risk of suicidal thoughts. And I will also say that THC is the #1 substance found in completed Colorado teen suicides. And marijuana is strongly associated with future high-risk use of other substances, including opioids. Here is the data from the 2023 Healthy Kids Colorado survey. 29% of Larimer County youth have ever used marijuana, and 3.9% of them did so before the age of 13. 14.6% of Larimer County youth have used in the past 30 days. Of the kids who did use in the past 30 days, 39% of them used high-potency THC products like vapes. 47.6% used 3 to 39 times, not just a casual user. And 14.9% of the kids who used in the past 30 days used over 40 times in that 30-day window. Parents can have, marijuana can have a devastating effect on kids and their beautiful brains. And trusted adult voices matter. Dr. Bertha Madras of Harvard University says parents are the missing link to prevention. And the Healthy Kids Colorado survey data tells us that kids who know their parents disapprove of marijuana use are 72% less likely to use. Marijuana prevention is upstream opioid prevention. Said another way, preventing opioid use begins with preventing marijuana use. The benefits are wide-reaching. One Chance to Grow Up has a proven track record of impactful education campaigns. We've built relationships with hundreds of youth-serving organizations across the state, and we have done dozens of public awareness campaigns. Can You Spot the Pot even got international recognition. Our successful Get the Facts campaign was created in 2022 and included 4 black box warnings. We recreated it in 2023 at the request of North High School in Denver in Spanish for both billboards and social media. Here is an example of one of the billboards from our current Pikes Peak Region 16 campaign, which we plan to and hope to use as a template for the Larimer County campaign. This public awareness campaign not only includes billboards, but also geofenced social media, targeting parent-aged adults, earned media, and extensive parent and trusted adult in-person and virtual education events. The messages delivered by this campaign are clear. Potency has changed dramatically. It is actually 800% since legalization. The brain is developing until age 25. The risks of marijuana include psychosis, anxiety. Let's drive visits to the Larimer County educational web landing page we will create, an example of which is highriskthc.org. And I please ask you to check it out because it's really impactful. And let's engage community partners with education events, both in person and virtual. One Chance will deliver smart, scalable, community-driven education that creates lasting impacts. Education that includes workshops, webinars, billboard campaign, geo-fenced digital media campaign linking back to a Larimer County web landing page, earned media, English and Spanish, educational materials and toolkits, as well as digital resources, school outreach, and community outreach to youth-serving organizations. We look forward to the opportunity of serving Region 2 Opioid Council in your efforts to prevent substance use disorder and opioid use disorder across a lifespan. A child born today will fall under this 18-year opioid agreement for the next 14 years. Let's prevent that child from needing the downstream services you are working so hard to provide. Our history shows One Chance doesn't just talk about protecting kids, we do it, and we engage others to join us. Together, we can give more kids in Larimer County, Colorado, the chance to grow up healthy, connected, and drug-free. Thank you so much.
Questions? Thank you. Yes.
Thanks for your presentation. Other folks have shown kind of a breakout, and let me see, I'm just not sure what, I know you listed all the deliverables, but breaking it down at $184,000 is a lot of money for what I saw there, and no offense, I'm just trying to understand how much is going where and what. That's a lot of money, and I'm not sure what the deliverables, how many kids you're reaching, and are you gonna be welcome in the schools or not, and I'm just curious.
We don't reach kids. We reach trusted adults and parents.
But I'm not sure I'm seeing enough the detail, because when I look at the approved uses, it's just all under the bucket of E, and I'm just not sure it's broken down, so I understand where it's going.
Well, Jennifer can speak to the individual line items.
Yeah, on the last 2 pages of the agenda are the budget items. But so some of that time, we've got a third of FTE dedicated to making community connections, whether it's youth serving organizations or schools or wherever. But that would be a person or a couple of people. We haven't quite navigated that yet because it depends on if we get funding or not. But dedicating a third FTE to actually do outreach to all of the local community to set up events, both webinar, virtual, and in person. And then we have direct costs into the marketing of the $35,000 will go directly to creating the campaign, redesigning it specifically for Larimer County, creating a landing page for Larimer County. And then $75,000 is the actual buy, that's out of home, which is billboards, digital display ads, social media ads, the whole digital content. So that is a big chunk of that. And then we also have a expert medical consultant that we currently work with, and this would keep engagement with that person, including doing another video. She's already done one for us, doing another video where we can take excerpts to share that on social media and in the digital campaigns. And then we have a minimum of 4 in-person education. It's probably more than that. We say 4 is a minimum. For another one, we committed to 8. We've already done 12 and we plan to do more. So it really depends on what kind of relationship we make within the community and how open different, areas are, different organizations are to us actually getting in there and having events. And then also for webinars would be the minimum. And we are kind of thinking on creating a series, a learning series that would also be available. So that's kind of been the thought process of part of those webinars that we would produce.
Council, got a question here. We've got 2 minutes left before our time adjourns. How would we like to move forward? I'm asking the voting members how they would like to proceed. Because we have to leave very soon. So, yes.
We have to make the motion on the others, and I still have some questions and concerns about this one, so I'm not sure I'm ready to move forward on this one. So I know you have to go, and I want to honor that. I could continue the meeting if we wanted to vote to add time on. I'm not sure where you're at, but I think 2 minutes. Because we haven't even addressed that there's 54,000.
We have no other presentations, correct?
Correct.
Is it possible that a vote be deferred on this one
It is, yeah.
And we could do all the others en masse.
That would be, I would
Would you
welcome
like to
that.
make that motion?
I would move that we approve en masse all of the proposals with the exception of this one, which will require a little more information.
I'll second that.
Just for the clarity on that motion and second, that all of them, like Health Partners, Rescue Mission Rights Above, Willow Collective, approved for their request. One Chance to Grow Up will be tabled for further conversation at the next meeting. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct. That was,
At the, not the request, but at the 6, like everyone else, at 6:30.
they all requested it this time.
Okay, I just want to be,
Clarification.
I want to be sure that it's at the 6% and whether, because I need to go back and double check that I believe.
I
it
did.
is, but-
I
Okay,
did, check.
okay. I second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further conversation? Hearing none, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion signal by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Does anybody oppose the motion? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. We will ask you to come back for our next month's meeting. We'll get you the information, Heather will. Thank you for your time.
Okay. We do have a problem with next month's meeting. We're actually presenting at Stanford on that day,
Okay.
those 2 days. So
We could probably be online because the Stanford presentation is also online, if that's acceptable to the council.
That would work. Yeah, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want me to, do you want us to vote on this? Did you have an update? Do we want to address that or?
I will wait 30 seconds for the.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you can go, I can take.
We can do one,
Okay.
30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay, because it's not a huge update. Oh,
Sorry.
I also have a 30-second update, go ahead. Okay. So, just want to state, so as we've all heard, the ROAC needs to be good stewards of the settlement money. And we also heard the Commissioner mention this as well, that, you know, we need it audited by the state and feds. And so in December, there was a question about the first half of the money that the Sheriff's Office received because of some contract that was not active in October of 2025. So recently, the chair had a conversation with the sheriff, and it does appear that even though Summitstone is not riding along in vehicles, the sheriff's office still does call out Summitstone on scene. And so we requested information, like a formal letter from the sheriff with some details to confirm that and to share that information with ROAC. So he had staff out last week for spring break, so we don't have a letter yet, but as soon as we get that letter, we will share it with ROAC. And then ROAC can consider whether or not it satisfies the intent of the grant agreements. So more to come on that.
Just clarification, I did not have a conversation with the sheriff. It was
Oh.
Captain or Sergeant Cook and his presentations in December. There was some confusion, but I did not specifically have a conversation with
Okay.
the sheriff. I think the sheriff's had conversations with others, but it was not with me.
Oh,
And
no.
I'm well educated on the topic, and so when we get to it, I'll be ready to.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And I won't be here in April, but my alternate will be here.
Perfect. So thank you for the update. 30-second update.
Real quick, just wanted to share this will be my last meeting. I have been appointed as the deputy assessor for Larimer County, so I have resigned my position for with the Department of Human Services. My last day there will be April 10th. So I'll work with Director O'Hare on filling my vacancy as an advisor.
Well, congratulations, Deputy Assessor. But we will,
I'm excited to serve in that role.
Yeah. Continuing your life of service.
yes.
Just a quick heads up also, I may or may not be here next month depending on how the election goes, so we'll see.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate that. Thank you, council members. It was 3:33. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
We got a motion and second. Anybody opposed that? Wonderful, great meeting, great work, everyone, and we'll see you next month.